Apollo Control, Houston, 2 minutes, 50 seconds away from time of LOS now. Our distance away from the moon, 460 nautical miles. Velocity, 7417 feet per second. Here in Mission Control, we're standing by. There's certainly a great deal of anxiety at this moment. We acquire at 36 minutes. So at 68 hours, 55 minutes, continuing to monitor. This is Apollo Control. So at this time, we're going to stand by and continue to monitor the loops here in Mission Control for our go, no-go decision. One minute, 30 seconds away now from loss of signal. Our distance away from the moon now, 401 nautical miles. Velocity reading 7535 as we continue with this flight of Apollo 8. Apollo 8 Houston, 1 minute to LOS, all systems go. Our flight control team here in Mission Control has examined the data and it looks good. So we have a combined crew ground decision. We are go, repeat go for lunar orbit insertion 1. Apollo 8, 10 seconds to go. Your go all the way.
Roger. Thanks a lot, troops. See you on the other side.
We've had loss of a signal with Apollo 8 at 68 hours, 58 minutes, 45 seconds. We will watch with continuing interest the AOS clock here in Mission Control. They're traveling over the backside of the moon now. Our velocity reading here, 7777 feet per second. Now we're in our period of longest wait, continuing to monitor. This is Apollo Control, Houston. Apollo Control, Houston, we've acquired signal, but no voice contact yet. We're standing by. We're looking at engine data and it looks good. Tank pressures look good.
Apollo 8, this is Houston, over. Roger, Houston, we read you loud and clear. How do you read us?
We've got it. Apollo 8 now in in lunar orbit. There's a cheer in this room. This is Apollo Control Houston, switching now to the voice of Jim Lovell. 560.5, good to hear your voice. The unmanned lunar orbiter spacecraft traversed the moon perhaps over 10,000 times, but this is the first that a man aboard reported to his compatriots here on Earth.
Gap in the middle. Okay. Good evening. Hello. I'm explaining loss of signal to Gareth. There's a gap in the middle because that's when Apollo 8 is on the far side of the moon.
Because the moon's in the way.
Yes. So, welcome back to Shenzhen, where we are building things out of electronics. Oh, I forgot the putting my IRC on a different monitor. Oh well, I'll do it by flipping virtual desktops. So we had the security nightmare and the meat-based printer come up newly for printing meat. Obviously, 3D printed meat.
Just what you need when everything in the world's gone shit. And you need supplies,
So we have some specs for the meat-based printer somewhere, which I should probably open up. Which are there? Right. So. I should make an attempt at I think I should make an attempt at the meat-based printer. So awkwardly it doesn't give us the diagrams in this view. I have to look those up in the supplemental data. So what I should do is I shall make a quick note here of what the various shapes are. We do have a monospaced font here, don't we? Yes. So one of them goes, so let's see, cutlet goes like this, where we have lean and fat, which I should probably write as F and L to avoid having to think about it. That's rather hard to read, isn't it? Can I make it slightly more obviously different? No, I really can't. Okay, maybe I should do it slightly differently then. Oops. Let's try that. So then our cutlet is fat, lean, fat, lean, fat, lean, fat. Fat, lean, 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 fat. Fat, lean, fat, lean, fat, lean, fat. Going to need another note. steak is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That. And bacon is simply no, the other way around actually. Get yourself some better bacon. Right. So, thus, those are the patterns that we need to extrude. Based on the value we get in from the keypad. So, I mean, we could represent each of those as 7 values in a ROM somewhere. And that would certainly feel like a really simple approach to the problem. The only awkward thing is that we have to select the ROM and then... yeah. Maybe we have one processor whose job it is to read stuff from a ROM that contains the meat layouts.
This is read-only memory, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
So, like, we could have one that says that cutlets go 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1 there, and 1, 1, 1 there. And then steak goes... like that, and then well, I mean, maybe we can arrange to actually open code bacon rather than having a ROM that's job is solely to write bacon. So, and then obviously we just do this for the outputs. Do I actually have to suppress those in order to be able to wire underneath them? That's a bit silly. Maybe I can't do this quickly. Because, yeah, we need... I don't think I want to do that. I think I want a different processor whose job is doing the thinking. Indeed, maybe it just does the writing to that thing. it. But then, do we really need the processor to drive the ROM at all? Because my original reason for wanting to use a second processor was because I'd need a lot of instructions because it might be reading from either of two ROMs, and now I've redesigned it so it isn't. So what's the Hang on, I need to find some padding to stop my legs overheating because the laptop finds this quite exciting. Right, so yes, let's try. Actually, what I wanted to do was something like sub 1 mul 3 move to thing. Would have been nicer if bacon had been the middle one, because then I could use a TCP and the bacon would be like the weird case. Now going, would it actually be simpler to have separate dedicated bacon
Ones.
well no so yes, how about if we have as our main thing, like if we have a processor with lots of lovely XBus ports. It doesn't have quite enough XBus ports. What I want is a processor with 5 XBus ports, and those don't exist. Because I was just thinking, if we just have a thing that reads from one of 3 things based on the state of the thing that we've been asked to do. Because, like, I was thinking, what if we do... Oh, of course, we can write multiple things to the output, can't we? That's perfectly safe, as long as we only slip once they're in the right state. Yes, well, yes, and then they will slip. Yes, mul, when I say mul, I mean multiply. So, I mean, I could do something that goes essentially... Not like that, no. Oh, but we don't need... Bacon is a constant. That's really simple. Right, yes. Bacon is a constant. Bacon is always 100. Or possibly 1, I don't yet know. I can't work out which way round I've wired up the outputs yet. So we can go... like morph steak type, so we'll say that steak comes from x0. Oh yeah, this is how you do it, isn't it? x2 minus morph cutlet type, which we'll insist is x3, x2 plus morph 100 x2. And like, we do write two different things to the output, but that's fine. And then we just throw away this processor. We buy a separate ROM. We buy 2 ROMs instead because they're cheaper. And the ROM actually just contains... Each ROM contains 2 copies of the same thing. So that's the cutlet ROM. And so we just wire... that up to x0, and conveniently we have 7 things we need to output, and the ROM has a length of 14, and then this one is the steak type ROM, which goes 111, 101, 101, 111, 101. It's going to turn out I've got all these upside down, isn't it? But like, you've seen how I test these things. I go, well, that's probably right, modulo all of the magic numbers being wrong, plus someone needs to press the extrude button, don't they? Well, we'll wire up P1 to extrude then.
Extrude, Lisa, or extrude?
And then we should probably do something with it. Well, let's test it first with the extrude not doing anything, and then we'll fix the extrude signal if everything else looks like working. Right. Well, that's a mess. Well, probably I should have a loop and some, yeah. A loop would probably make this work a lot better, wouldn't it? Blah blah blah. Morv. Well, actually no. Yeah. Loop. Thing. Slip 1. Add 1 TQ AC 767 fence post question there. If we haven't yet got there, jump L Mov Naught AC. Okay, that might work a bit better. Okay, it still doesn't work properly. It's working improperly in like every possible way there. And because it never triggers extrude, it doesn't even produce the wrong meat. Right, let's fix that. Because now that we've written this, we can obviously trivially do Mov 100 P1 there and Mov 0 P1 there. And then it will extrude things, and they will all be the wrong things. So what was going wrong there? So let's see. It was initially asked to extrude number 1, and it's getting the 2 ROM-based meats the wrong way round for a start. So let's try that instead. What? And then it crashes. But I didn't change anything. Why are you... Oh, have I just fouled that up somehow? Mov X1. Yes, okay, not X1. X0. Right, well, that's getting closer. Okay, we also have to Mov 0x2 at the end, do we? Good job, we've got lots of space for instructions here. Right, that's getting better. We can now successfully extrude cutlet meat. Looks like we've got bacon back to front, doesn't it? Right, so bacon. Yes, all of the signals for bacon are upside down. So let's just turn the bacon constant upside down. Right, now we extrude bacon correctly. And what the blue blazes is going on with the... Right, yes, it looks like we also have all of the constants for the steak upside down, which is this one, isn't it? So I think it's meant to be 0, 10, 10, 0, 10, 10, 0, 0, 10, 10, 0, 0, 10, 10. That can't be right. 10, not. Right. Meat printing successful. And ours is actually quite a cheap version of it. Goodness. I was just spewing out code as much as necessary until the bloody thing worked. And, like, apparently this is quite efficient.
Is this because you use ROMs?
Maybe. I mean, it saved on processors, certainly. Oh well, that one's quite nice then. Are you objecting to my high power usage? I've just noticed this thing has a profiler. What does that do? Yes, the power usage is a bit on the high side. Oh, little bar charts in your code. But it doesn't retain them over all of the runs. How's that helpful? I want to average it over like 1,000 runs. And it blanks them as soon as I... Ugh, that's really unhelpful. Turn off the profiler. It's clear that we need a move naught to lots of registers instruction. Just send 0 to every register would be almost exactly what we want at that point. Like, there's a slight problem with block writing to x1, but otherwise that would be fine. Right, anyway, back to our email. That seemed like a pretty good... I sampled some of the meats in this project. It was all quite delicious.
Well,
I agree, it's surprisingly better than I expected, says Lily Wu. Carl Teskey, make me a fish and chips robot, then we'll talk. I did mention, probably not on the stream, the finding a fish and chip shop in some bit of South Korea near Incheon where
yeah.
people were filming a music video. So, zeroing the program counter would be fine too, Jacob. It's at the end of the program. I just want to reset the whole CPU and start again. So I've talked about the scale of things here, the capacity in all the factories and ports and markets, and I've asked, where's all this, going? Not to get all existential on you, but it's an important issue, that one that tends to crop up after big economic strides. In some senses, yay, we did it. After lots of hard work and sacrifice, we've secured a hugely important place in the world. So now what? Tilly, yes. Call me some kind of nutter, but engines of creations like these, the ones we have here, just haven't existed before at this scale. It's only now dawning on us what could be done with them if we started coordinating them all. What if someone with some imagination were to start doing that? Putting the whole city to work on something together. What could you build that way? Something gigantic and amazing, or something gigantic and scary. Maybe a bit of both. Yes, have you met what your company is doing with the
thorium mine?
Well, no, the thorium mine is not really the highly suspicious thing. It's the Sun Hao Chan's traffic signal for a 6-way intersection for reasons we don't know, and thing for packet router and aquaponics maintenance robot, which I suspect someone here is coordinating something. We just don't quite know what they're coordinating it to make. I don't think the bacon is part of the enormous plan. We've entered into an agreement from Lily Wu to produce some deep sea sensing equipment For a complete ocean monitoring system, each station will have passive sonar and magnetic anomaly detection sensors recording continuously. Alright, I'd assumed this was an environmental thing, but no. Along with a radio uplink for remote review. This probably goes without saying, but these need to be robust and reliable. Carl asks, am I allowed to ask who these are for? Lily, you're allowed to ask.
Right.
Oh, who these are for? Who are these for, he asks. Sun Hao Tian. So Sun Hao Tian also wishes to make something that's, well, I mean, it feels obviously like a submarine detector.
It does feel quite submarine related, doesn't it?
Passive submarine, passive sonar and magnetic anomaly detection. Is very much, yes. I mean, ship or sub detection, but like ships you can spot usually more easily on the surface unless you are a submarine. And since this is meant to be a monitoring system rather than something you build into something that's like actively trundling around, I think this is buoys detecting submarines rather than, and it's using radio. It's buoys detecting submarines rather than subs detecting ships.
Subs detecting other subs?
Indeed, not that either, because again, it's the radio uplink for remote review. Let's have a quick look at that, though. I think I might try to do an incredibly dodgy thing for the lock.
Or is this just the Chinese Navy not trusting anyone in their subs properly, so you have to send everything back to be reviewed by head office?
I don't know. I have no idea what the Chinese military is like in that regard. So, we have a passive sonar sensor and a input connected to a magnetic anomaly detector, and a radio. When a data packet is received over the radio that specifies the ID number of this sensor assembly, respond with the 6 most recent sensor readings, including the current one from the requested sensor, in order from oldest to most recent. Let's go and do the lock first, I think. Unless someone goes, yes, let's do that.
It's okay, we can imagine the world is probably...
Yeah, apparently so. Right, yes. Not least because I had a very, very bad idea for how to do this one more cheaper than anyone else. So, because the thing is, what we have here is something that gives us a 9-digit, 10-digit card number, and we're expected to unlock. We're programmed with this card number, and then we're later given a card number, and we're expected to unlock the door if it matches the programmed one. And so, obviously, the expensive way to do this is you write the card number into RAM, and then you read it out again and compare. Obviously, the cheaty way to do it is you hash the card number and store it in a register, and hope no one comes along with a hash collision, and hope you can write an adequately good hash function in like 2 or 3 instructions. Unfortunately, I haven't yet managed to come up with a good hash function for a 10-digit card number, because you kind of even... I mean, obviously you could just sum all the digits, but that's a really very bad hash function. Though it does have the advantage that the staff card doesn't have any hash collisions, because it's all 9s. The only way you can get an output of 90 is by adding all 9s together. You could do something... I was thinking you could do something like multiply by 2 after each digit, but then you rather rapidly overflow your 999 maximum register. And we don't have much by way of arithmetic operations. So, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the hotel door lock. Because obviously the test cases can't test reliably that no pair of card numbers collide. So, I mean, the lazy one does... well, the easy approach, the obvious approach to this. I now slightly wonder if we can just squirt the whole lot in directly from the card reader. I like have this long habit of counting down, and I may as well count up. Cump is obviously not an instruction here.
I've got enough nice biscuits to have up in the way.
Actually, we don't need to do that at all. What are you doing, Harris? We wait until we get a packet, and then we sample whether the learn input is high or low. So then we go... U for unlock. So then when we're asked to unlock, we don't need to mov naught ack there. We can shift the mov naught ack up to there. Hang on, teak x naught x2. That means we also want to put that mov naught x3 up here so that we reset the RAM at the same time. If it is not equal, mov1 dat. Yes. Actually, go for 100 dat, mov naught dat. No, how long's that pulse is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide. MOV 6 dat. This is too long. Nine, and then we fall off the end of the program. Still, this should learn at least. So that correctly loads the RAM with the right things. It's just that then the test side doesn't work correctly. Because it will just weirdly fall off the bottom of jump down to there as it should. But that's fine. We don't have to do two separate loops. We can have one little loop that just does a TGT P050 at the top of every cycle, and then we can do all of the counting in that once across the whole thing. That will work. So we move so the loop ends up, we don't actually have anything using T, do we? No. The loop ends up being to there. And says if we're not in learn mode, if we're in learn mode, we do that. If we are, that's unconditional, that's unconditional. If we're not in learn mode, we do that. We take advantage of the fact that that's a minus and thus it gets executed. It won't get executed in non-learning mode. We stick MOV6 dat somewhere. That's basically in the startup, isn't it? It doesn't really matter. See, maybe we switch to. Do we have a TNE? Maybe we do something even stupider to save us another instruction. Excuse me, I'm paging through the programming manual. See, I only need the reference card, don't I? Reference card says we do not have a TNE because that will make life too easy. But we could invert the sense of that test. Because what I'm thinking is we have this instruction here that says that switches us into don't emit and unlock pulse mode, and if we arrange that always fires when we're learning, then we can have the maybe emit and unlock pulse instruction be unconditional, because that's useful because it will happen after we've corrupted the condition code with the loop exit. So we flip that, flip these over, and so now we say if we flip that back again. Yes. If is the learn input off. If the learn input is not off, learn. If the learn input is off, compare. If the learn input is not off or the comparison came out false, make sure we don't send an unlock pulse. That's all good. Blah blah blah. Gen P1 dat 0. That looks like it works. Okay, it hangs. What's going on there then? So that all works like we expect. We set everything up. We're in learning mode, so we read from x0 and write to x2. Blank dat, add 1, jump. So that's all working correctly. We're oh no, 7, 8, 9. Generate a 0 length output pulse. Oh, we appear not to have read one of the things from the card reader. What? Oh, because there are 10 digits. Stoats. Right, it doesn't work because, of course, we don't recognise the staff card. Interesting. So, we've got 2 spare instructions. I'm sure this can be done. So what we really want to say is, does x0 equal x2 or 9? But that's awkward. Okay. I wonder how accurate this has to be. Like, what happens if we go... If we say, if every digit is greater than or equal to the programmed card number, because that will correctly match the staff card, because that has the highest possible value, and it will correctly match the correct card. And it will reject quite a lot of other cards. This will, because we don't have a greater than or equal to, we're going to have to use less than and invert all the damn tests again. Right, that should work. Let's see how good their tests are. I mean, oh no, damn it, they gave us a sneaky one there. They had us learn 65200900528 and fed us something with a 9 in place of it. Haha, they've thought of that. They've thought of the obvious approach of treat 9s as special as well. Curses. I mean, we got as far as test 3. Right, let's put that back to where it was, i.e. the same version of the code that correctly does everything but doesn't recognise the staff card. So the problem is that we're currently doing that as a test for equality between 2 registers. Between 2 XBus ports. So in order to read something and test it, we have to in order to be able to test something against 2 possible values, namely the correct value and the staff card value, we have to read it twice. And that means we probably have to stash it in a register somewhere. And we already have 2 registers in use. So yes, because I kind of like the fact that we've managed to get the same main loop doing learning and reading, but we have to make sure we read everything from the card. But the thing is, we've got the accumulator handling our counting, and we've got DAT handling our remembering whether we've had a mismatch of card happen. Well, let's try my original really evil plan. Is it going to turn out you can't put the whole of a... Damn it! The program won't fit in a post-it note. I just want to stash my program somewhere so that I can try a completely different one. That's fine, I just need to split it across 2 post-it notes. There we go, right. So let's try the evil version. Oh! No, the evil version doesn't work at all, because I haven't got a spare register. My plan was that I would just add the digits into the accumulator, but I'm using the accumulator to count how far through the loop I am. Okay, no, that doesn't work. Right, that stupid trick won't work. SGT suggests that there should be a larger post-it note that costs 2 yuan more. Sorry. I noticed that none of the components is not recommended anymore. So the problem is that we essentially need somewhere else to remember. So we have 2 problems. One is that each incoming value needs to be compared both against the correct value and against 9. And the other one is that we now need to remember both whether we still think we might have found the correct card number and whether we think we might have found 999999999. 9. Thank you, yes. Sorry, I briefly had to pause, go back and listen to what I just said in order to work out how many 9s I put in. And go, that wasn't quite enough. And that means we need one register where we stash the incoming value temporarily in order to do 2 comparisons on it, and a register where we remember what has where we remember each 1 bit rather for each of the card states.
Your registers like T.
Yes, please. I think. So Dizzy suggests you could maybe store the "are we maybe correct" with digit things. Problem with that is that only works on the accumulator, which I'm using as a loop counter. This is feeling annoyingly much like I need a second CPU for something. Because I don't really want to have a learn CPU and a read CPU, because actually the only difference between those is like 2 instructions. It's actually the compare against all 9s versus compare against... Okay, stupid plan. A compare against all 9s processor. God, but it needs 2 values to remember as well. It needs to remember whether it's 9iness is 90 enough, and it's a loop counter. I think. Or maybe it doesn't need a loop counter of its very own. So there is the interesting fact that, as I mentioned before, the only thing that can add up to 90 is all 9s. Which means that we can, if we had an accumulator, we could just add each digit to it, and the result would be 90 if and only if everything was correct. So how about if we have this processor? This says it can read from, I think it can read from the same X bus. I don't think it can read the same data from the same X bus, is the thing. I think we'll find that if we have something like that, right, if we just do this and single step in, that 9 ends up disappearing into that processor, and indeed several more digits do, and the digits end up scattered between the 2 processors, which is not very helpful. So I think if you want to take an X bus input and fork it between 2 processors, then you have to do something cleverer. But I think we might be able to do a tolerable job like that. It's only non-deterministic if they both try to read from it in the same instruction, in the same cycle. Otherwise, one of them is obviously getting there first. Exercise for the reader: devise a system in which this works. Right. But I wonder if I can do something really stupid. Let us have a system where all that this processor does is that. It just repeatedly reads a value in from X1 and keeps a running sum of it forever. So obviously that processor as it is does nothing, because nothing ever talks to it.
Something in the contrast in the spring, keep the lid off, and suddenly these things are about 2 foot long sprung on that, is it?
Yes. They keep doing that. So then what we can do... No, let's also use... Oh, no, that doesn't work. I still need another register then, don't I? Because I can't remember the incoming value. Because what I was going to do is have that have the main processor write the digits out to that, and then write minus 999 out to it in order to reset it. Because with the saturating arithmetic that will work fine. But I still need to see the card digits. Ooh. There's some really stupid thing I can do then. I mean, I suppose I could use my my really stupid summing trick here. As in, still just record the still just remember the total. Oh gods. Can I do that? Does that help? Not very much. Sorry, so my thought was, what if I don't record in the RAM the values of the card, instead record the running sums we get out of the running sum processor. And then we never have to actually... Oh, gods, right, okay. That, of course, means that even when learning, we're feeding feeding things through the running sum processor. At which point I go, why the hell are we not doing that? Right. There's a small part of me that doesn't quite work because it never resets, and we need some means of resetting that counter. So that doesn't work because while that would be a perfectly sensible thing to have in the ROM, we now need to have that processor. How many instructions are available in one of those?
Confusing beat situation.
We can't actually write all 10 AND instructions into a single thing. No, and it also needs the MOV ACK X1 thing. So it needs and that's kind of awkward because the last... It certainly looks... I think the... So... I think this feels like the right kind of approach. I just need to have a means of... So I could have the lower processor signal back after each read whether it wants the upper processor to reset now. Which could be as simple as add X1, of course. That might be simple enough. So that may not give us enough. I mean, I've run out of instructions to implement the master key again. So then we end up with a bunch of what? Oops, yes, that needs an at before it. Right, so that then correctly puts in those numbers. And yeah, we've clearly screwed something up there. Because on the last loop, yeah, so that mov naught x naught needs to go there and be conditionalized on only if we're looping again. Now that mov there needs to be moved up one line. This is really awkward, you can't have a new line at the end of the file. Right, so that gets us back to the point where only the staff key is failing. But the nice thing is that we now have a way to detect the staff key, which is essentially at if the sum is ever whatever the number turns out to be, minus 999 plus 90 minus 909, then that means we've just seen the staff key. So our only problem is that we don't have the 2 instructions or so that we need to test that. And in particular, that's how we then we throw away that x naught again. So the problem is that on the last loop we need to remember x naught and test it against whatever comes out of the RAM and test it against minus 909. And like, we could do that. That doesn't require us to have a spare register because we can use the accumulator for that. Because I'm taking advantage of saturating arithmetic. So in order to I have a thing which essentially repeatedly adds its input to the accumulator, and I'm having it, and I'm thus resetting it by adding minus 999 to it, which just causes it to saturate as low as it can go. And because the staff card is number 999999999, whose sum is 90. And therefore, if I've added all of those digits into the accumulator, I end up with minus 909.
Right. So is this a program designed to work specifically for one staff card number?
Yes.
Right.
The staff card is always numbered 999999999.
Okay.
Well, presumably all the staff cards are numbered 999999999. T. Tea's still quite hot. So, can I... it feels like surely I've got some space in here. I spend 3 instructions just setting up the various registers appropriately, which is irritating, but I don't think I can do better. I assume you can't read from the address port of these of the RAM. I wonder if the spec tells me anything about that. Memory pointers can be read and written over XBus. Well, that makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? Don't bother with an accumulator, just use X3 as your accumulator. Well, okay, that doesn't quite work. No, that doesn't work because then it auto increments. Remove that, and then we teak X3 10. Right, let's see if that works, because that's just freed us 2 instructions. Right, that's better. Ha 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 ha. So now with those 2 spare instructions, and not needing the accumulator, well, now we can just 2 spare instructions. That's not quite the number I wanted. Now I think we can throw away that second processor, though. Just about. Because we could... we're not actually... We'd have to reset the accumulator and so forth. Maybe we can't, but we could. Let's see. Problem is that at the very least we need teak something minus 909 plus mov6 dat, and that burns 2 instructions. So how do we do that in a way that isn't painful? I mean, this does mean we've got the accumulator spare now. So we could go back to the stupid design for like the 5th time. Because we could now just add the digits into the accumulator. I mean, that's I'd prefer not to do that if we can manage to avoid it. So our problem is that really we want to do... Okay, let's go slightly in the right direction and do... So that should behave the same, except that it, at the end of that loop, has minus 909 in the accumulator. Our only problem is that we now have an inadequacy of instructions for resetting things, because we need to do like teak ac -909 and then do something, and we've not got the one instruction we need to do something. I would observe that we could swap ac and dat if that would help us. So, but that... Because then what I want to insert here is a plus mov 6 dat. But I've run out of space. So that instruction is kind of spurious. That's merely needed because the first processor can't count. But I can't see a way that we can avoid... I mean, I suppose, actually, the first processor can just use the RAM as a counter, can't it? So then it can go... Right, and then we don't have to send any signals back up to it, because it can do its own counting, which saves us those two instructions, which then gives us enough space to go like that. Maybe. Don't trust this in the slightest. And curiously enough, it hangs. Right. You don't actually want to reset that to -999 now, because we're counting from 0 instead, because that's more sensible. Oh, we actually have to do something to advance that counter, don't we? That's fine, we've got one spare instruction. Let's just rewire this a little. Right. And then, in order to advance the pointer, we have to go where should this go? Just before we read from it, I suppose. Mov x to null. Okay, that doesn't work. Oh, we're still moving. We're still writing into there, which is not what we wanted to do. That mean I deleted? I think that means I've deleted an instruction I didn't mean to delete. I wonder if it was an important one. Oh, and that's also still got the add x1 instruction. What, have I forgotten to delete most of the instructions we're not using? Or done something completely wrong? Right, so... that looks like that may actually successfully load the card number. But then it seems not to have... oh, that's the instruction I lost. I lost the... minus mov naught dat instruction. Somehow got lost. Right. Right. Sorted. Taking advantage of the address counter... oh! Mostly taking advantage of the address counter to correctly do things, except that in test run 2 we spuriously unlocked the door while being asked to learn something. What? Well, that's an amusing problem. I'll have some more tea while I wonder what's going on. So why did we spuriously unlock the door there? Let's put... can I put a breakpoint there? Yes, right. So, what happened here then? We've currently got that card number programmed into the memory, and we've demonstrated we can unlock with that. We unlock with the staff card here, and we're now waiting for another card, and we should get a card number that's utterly spurious, but we're asked to learn it. So they hold down the learn button. Oh, nothing ever resets DAT if we're in learn mode, does it? Yes, it does. It's there, it's that mov naught dat is meant to reset it. So we're in learning mode. That processor tests if P0 is less than 50. It is, so we're in learning mode. Therefore, mov x0 to x2, mov naught dat. I mean, I think I can see what the problem here is. It's that nothing... oh, right. If we have unlocked with the staff card, then attempting to learn causes us to unlock the door. Because the only thing that stops us unlocking the door in learn mode... rather, the thing that we use... the test we use to decide whether to unlock the door in staff for the staff card, we never reset if our next read is in learn mode. Well, I mean, we can do that the crude way, because we've got one spare instruction. I should remove that breakpoint, shouldn't I? But let's just check that this works now. Yes. Right. So that works correctly and does it reasonably non-evilly. As in, I believe it does actually only unlock for the correct card number. So the question is, can we do it without the RAM? And maybe even without the second processor. Problem with doing without the second processor is we need a loop counter to read 10 bytes and somewhere to accumulate some kind of a very bad hash of the card number. Which means we need 2 places where we can do arithmetic. Plus, we need somewhere to store the correct card number. Actually, we've got a lot of spaces in code in an MC6000, haven't we? It's not that insecure. Right. Damn it, I'm going to do a less secure version. No, hang on. Right. Because I think we can do better. Or rather, worse. So my target here is to do this with a single MC. What? Why did I carefully copy it? I'm going to start from scratch anyway. Right, here is the worse version. Let's see if we can do it. One. Sorry, yes. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We probably haven't got enough space. 8, 9, 10. Now we've not got enough space to do everything, have we? Because like that will correctly accumulate the card number without needing a loop counter. But then we need to do teak ac 90 minus teak ac dat plus gen thing other thing P160, and that would be fine, except that we never actually do implement the learning procedure. We need about 3 more lines here to do learning. Cause yeah, and the thing is, otherwise we need to have a loop counter, and loop counters are infuriatingly complicated to implement in this processor, and you basically have to use the accumulator for them, unless you use an off-board RAM just as a loop counter. And like, RAM is cheap, But it feels really silly to use the RAM as the loop counter. Now slightly wondering if that previous design But we already have a MOV X0 ACK. Why do we not instead do an unconditional add X0 sorry, unconditional add X0 and then either MOV or teak to X there, and I think that then means we can entirely throw away that upper processor. I mean, this may be a bit brave on my part. Well, that's made it a bit cheaper, hasn't it? Just tidy up a bit. I mean, yeah, that's that's reasonably elegant now. I mean, and it's still correct. Because I'd just been thinking, well, I mean, I can do the bad implementation using the RAM as a program counter, and I realised if I could do that, then I could use the RAM as RAM, and yes, and if I could fit it in as the bad implementation, I can fit it in like this. Right, is there any sensible way I can throw away any of that program? Probably not really. Yeah, that'll do. So, David and his wife Xiaomei, so they've got married while we weren't paying attention, have been watching the mini-series Get the Throne, with heroics, villainy and southern plot reversals have them waiting with bated breath for each new episode. Unfortunately, last night we missed last night's, and this morning I overheard people in the office discussing the latest twist before I could say anything. Surely there is some way to prevent being spoiled like this, perhaps with headphones that replace discussions of certain television shows with scrambled audio. Carl suggests you want to make a list of words to listen for, and we can have those trigger the audio override. Right. Audio in is a simple audio input connected to an omnidirectional microphone. Audio out is a simple output connected to a pair of headphones. Keywords is a non-blocking X-bus input, I think that's that one, connected to a natural language processing device that detects spoken words in an audio stream. Override is a simple input connected to a button. The signal from audio in should be copied to audio out until a keyword from the spoiler-related keywords list for the acclaimed television series Get the Throne is detected, after which audio out should be locked to a value of 50 until the override button is pushed. Look in the supplemental data section of the manual to find David and Xiaomei's spoiler-related keywords for various television shows. So the speech recognizer returns 2 3-digit numbers and is non-blocking and receives and returns -999 when nothing is available. And we then have a quantity of spoilers that we have available to us, which I will copy into a note if I'm allowed to install a note somewhere on this board. Does it have to overlap the circuit board? Apparently so. Can't put it outside the circuit board. Can I put it up there? Yes. Right. So the spoilers for Get the Throne are 711573 Emperor, 325. Oh no, that's the wrong. 715. 495160 Centurions, 575645 Poison Master, 712917 Midwife, 356361 Dwarf Rebellion, and 138420 Shadow Zone. Right. Conveniently, oh no, not conveniently. Inconveniently, there are 6 of these. Which means they will fit in a single ROM, but we'll have to be able to reset. I suppose we can just have rubbish at the end, can't we? 999999 sort of thing. I mean, maybe we can accomplish this in an MC4000. Oh, that's infuriating. We need 3 simple connections. Well, we've still got enough space, I suppose. Here we go. I mean, I can't believe it's going to be possible to do it in the number of lines of code we've got available. But we need somewhere to put the ROM, of course, don't we? Because we can't do all of those teaks in one processor. So I think we probably need like a recognizing processor and an audio processor. So then we do something like sorry, yes, X2. It's actually quite complicated. Because we have to read two things and check them against two values. And if we don't, we have to check them against every possible pair of values. And we do have the advantage that each of our potential phrases differs in both the first and the second number. I presume we're given ones that differ only in one of them, yes. I think. Yes, there, 1575522, which we should not respond to. But this means we can actually do essentially a read one value, search for it in the ROM. If we find it, read the second value and see if it's the next value in the ROM. Yes. Oh. So that does matching first byte, I think. Except, no, that's fine. That's searching for minus 999, which obviously it can't find. And then we wait, and then we get a value, which we then search for and we can't find. So if we insert incorrectly and unhelpfully 356 in there, then we can test that. Now that correctly jumps to the end of the program. Right. So that detects that can find the first byte of the message. It's just that we only have one instruction left to find the second. And we need to do something with the fact that we found something. I'm just thinking I can... There, that will pass us the first few phases of the test anyway. Except that, it's not meant to do that. Oh, because when it matches it goes wrong, yes. If we reset that to 0 again then it should pass the first few bits of the test simply by passing all the signal through, but then it goes wrong. Right. But we haven't quite got enough, as is so often the case, we haven't quite got enough instructions here. how can I make this slightly tighter so that it will I mean, one possibility is to inline the test code, of course. So then I could, instead of that, go teak x naught x2 and then plus whatever the hell I'm going to do when we do get a match. Okay, well let's say we just do mov null x1. We just wake up another processor. Does that work? No, because the other processor can't really be in a sleep because it has to be copying data continuously. Because so does this otherwise work? Let's actually load the ROM with what we want it to have in it. Right. A somewhat spurious jump T at the bottom now. Let's remove that instruction while I remember. That means we can have two conditional instructions if we want. That might be helpful. That should then do the same thing. And it never reads that 309, but that's fine. Okay, but now it's gone and stopped sleeping. Because that teak there advanced the ROM pointer by 1, which meant it was now an odd number, and it never becomes 0 again if it's an odd number. Well, as a temporary measure, we'll advance it one more. Actually, let's make that let's give that a mov 99. Well, actually for now, add 1. That way we can see each time it detects a phrase that it's meant to detect. So it should not detect anything special here. Oh, it's still crashing. What? Oh, what? That doesn't work. Because we need to advance that pointer whether or not that test returns true. How can we advance the pointer whether or not the test returns true? Well, since they all have different things, we need to not touch the pointer. Ooh, ugh. We need to not touch the pointer until after we have done that teak x0 x2. But after we've done that teak x0 x2, we've lost the condition flags. So we might be either in plus or minus, and we don't know which. But we don't want it to be that minus. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Okay, let's go for the really stupid approach. Don't bother skipping anything, ever. This will, of course, this should fail us a test. I mean, we'll fail tests anyway. So was that a phrase we were meant to recognise? 575 645, yes. So that was a correct detection. That should then be not detected. Should again not be detected. Should not be detected. And then the override button's been pressed. And everything should be perfectly normal. Except that there we should have detected another one, and we have. Good. And then here, there's another special phrase coming up. Was it that one? That one, yes. 138420. So that's correctly sending down that X bus when and only when we detect a bad word. Which is nice. But there's a question of whether that's actually what we want to do. We don't have a spare register that we can stash the current state in, because we are currently using... Why are we using the accumulator? Stop using the accumulator, Ben. Switch that to plus slip 1. Right, does that still do the right thing? No, it never detects the spoiler now. So this one does detect spoilers. No, what have I done? Alright, that one. This one detects spoilers. Yes, right, okay. But it does look like that use of the accumulator is completely pointless. Oh no, because we need to keep it in the accumulator to compare it repeatedly. Yes, you idiot Ben. Right. So, but because we know that nothing can match both, we could make that a jump to somewhere where we do some stuff. It's not very helpful. So the thing is, at the moment, it essentially carries on looking for the word after it's found it, and in theory, it could instead abandon the search once it's successfully found it, which would mean that thereafter, the accumulator's contents will become uninteresting. If we did that, though, we would need to somehow reset the ROM to 0 to address 0 before we did anything, before the next loop, which requires one instruction, which gives us only one instruction in which to do the X-bus whiffling. That might be enough. What happens if instead of doing that, we right, hang on, what do I want to do? If we say if the test is, if that test fails, then and only then test if x3 is 0, and loop if it's not. So that essentially we exit the loop if either x3 is 0 or we have matched something, and then the value of x3 tells us which one of those it was. So if we did this, then each time unit we will get a signal that's either spoiler, that's either non-zero if we found a spoiler or 0 if we didn't, I think. Maybe. But no. Okay, so how does that fail? So that's behaving perfectly normally. Runs all the way through. finds no matches. Yeah, okay, helps if you write to the correct X bus port. So that's not a spoiler. 575645 is a spoiler, and we end up with a 6 in the second processor. The next one is not a spoiler. So as we advance, spoiler there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And we don't actually need that SLX because it will be available precisely once per loop. So then that can just go, is it 0? If it's 0, if it's not 0, then jump to silence, quiet. If it otherwise, sleep 1. Jump to the top. If we are asked to be quiet, otherwise, MOV P0, P1. Sleep 1, jump to the top. Otherwise, if X1 is non-zero, jump to noisy. And otherwise MOV 50 P1 slip 1. Oh damn it, we've run out of instructions. So that's fine, except for two things. One of which is that we fall back at... Yeah, right. So we're going to need to keep some state somewhere, aren't we? Probably in the accumulator. Since that's what we've got at our disposal. And then we can make it a single loop rather than two loops. So what we do instead is we go... If that is non-zero, then MOV 1, MOV something AC. No, we go add X0. Saturating arithmetic means if we have ever added a non-zero value, the accumulator will be non-zero. So then we can just go teak AC0. If it is 0, we haven't heard anything bad yet. I'm going to have to change this, but we'll do it in a moment. Otherwise, we have not heard anything bad. Clear that out of the way. Otherwise, more 50p1, slurp 1, go around again. That's only problem is that the override button no longer works, but let's test this first. So that correctly mutes when we hear a spoiler, it just stays muted. So now we just need a teak x1 0 if it is non-zero mod naught ac. There we go. That's even reasonably logical. I mean, it's got bugs. It will occasionally shut off under circumstances where it shouldn't. There we go. Someone's sent us a test case that turns out to be bad. 495160. It did what? I wasn't expecting it to fail in that direction. Have I just mistranscribed one of the numbers? Centurions is 495160. Right. I mean, this has some terrible bugs in it. But the question is, are the test cases good enough to detect my terrible bugs? I mean, they're fairly obvious bugs. No, the test cases are not good enough to detect my terrible bugs. Excellent. Well, so the reason for the terrible bugs is we get a pair of numbers to represent each word that we're recognising, and we have a ROM that lists the pairs of numbers, or rather, it actually just lists in sequence all of the numbers through all of the pairs. And when we get an input, we search through the entire ROM for that number, for the first number in the pair that we've received, and then see if the next entry in the ROM is the second number that we've received, without paying attention to whether we were at an odd or even offset in the ROM. So if something ends up being the second byte of one word followed by the first byte of the next word, we'll get a false positive. But curiously, the test data never includes one of those. So we're all fine.
That's like how I program. You know, I assume the input's going to be the exact precise format, doing exactly the right thing.
Oh no, I'm not doing that, even. There will be perfectly valid inputs that I'll get the wrong answer on, just none of them appear in the test case. Like, they'll be fairly rare. Essentially, there will be 6 words that we incorrectly mute on, in addition to the 6 words we correctly mute on.
It's cheap and short and really inefficient.
Yes.
Well, look at the power usage. At the very end of the graph, there's one going bit.
Yes. Well, this is in part because I do no essentially silence detection. When I receive silence, I carefully check through the entire word list to make sure that silence isn't in there repeatedly. And because I'm comparing against every location in the ROM, I do twice as many comparisons as I need to. Which is part of why we get so many false positives. But, hey, it's for David, I don't care.
General plot of things, for example, might you find in several things' time that they've run the same program you wrote earlier or new data and doesn't work anymore and they would fix it?
I would think it would be really neat if they did. Like, I was kind of why I was hoping that I can't remember if any of the ones I've actually written have like known serious. The coin dispenser one had some minor bugs in it. That one clearly has some major bugs in it. I was hoping that the electronic lock would end up with a major bug in it, but as it turned out, I turned out to be able to implement it quite efficiently. without the bug. And yes, sadly, your spoiler blocking headphones don't work on your email.
So, I missed the actual premise of that. It blocks spoilers.
Yes. So the idea was that the headphones with a speech recognition chip in would detect people saying certain words and mute the output when that happened. And there would be,
Don't worry, not a spoiler.
and then there would be a button that you press to unmute them again.
Right.
And yes, so we had we essentially have this processor up here repeatedly reads the words and compares them against what's in the ROM and sends an output that says whether or not it thinks it's found a spoiler yet. By the rather entertaining means that so it loops through the contents of the ROM and it jumps out of the loop if either it's reached the end of the ROM or it's found a spoiler, and then uses the loop counter to check which one of those has happened, and just actually copies the loop counter into the audio processor. The audio processor then repeatedly reads those things from the spoiler chip and just adds them to its accumulator, and if its accumulator is non-zero, it doesn't copy data to the output. And then the override button just resets the accumulator. And that works. So yes, it's quite a silly design. And maybe there's a cheaper way to build it, but yes, it's thus quite expensive in power, but very small and tightly written, in part because it doesn't work properly. Cool Dad is back. Hey, remember the Cool Dad thing from a while back when he got arrested before he could start his tour, and we got stuck with all those colour-changing vape pens and it was kind of a disaster? Well, I just got a call from his people, and his tour is back on. They want the inventory. We don't have to dump them after all. They might even want more. I'm so happy right now. Finally, some good news today. I was very close to telling the accountants to take a write-down on all of that stock. Hang on, are we sure this wasn't just some elaborate publicity stunt? You know, the old concerts off again, no wait, it's on again ruse. No? Just me? Alright then. There was a rumour online that Cool Dad was actually framed by his twin rival DJs, DJ Like and DJ Subscribe. Will we get any special deal on tickets? Xiaomei and I would be interested in going. So last night I met a designer for a major international athletic wear company. She was in Shenzhen to tour some factories. We had a really good chat and we went and got a couple of drinks together, and well, you know how it goes. One thing led to another, and to turn a long story short, soon enough we had a product idea. Hello, Joe. Specifically, automatic colour-changing running shoes. Everyone loves brightly coloured shoes, but matching them to outfits can be a pain. Shoes made from e-textiles could adjust to the rest of your outfit automatically. Their design team sent over some colour data tables to get us started.
When is this?
2026, I believe.
Okay.
It was released in 2016.
Is he rather advanced technology for a few years' time? I can't imagine Horizon so taking place 35 years from now. That's rather more advanced than surely possible.
This doesn't have anything very surprising in it.
Like this or...
Shenzhen I. I mean, some of it is the autonomous AI running a thorium mine in Xinjiang. Maybe not, but like the microprocessors we're dealing with are tiny compared to what you'd really use, even for very cheap things. And there's the kind of weird thing that especially when you use TIS 100, you keep thinking that this is all built on transputers, which is like, well, it's TIS 100 era technology. Right. Oh, gods, we're making a histogram. Right. Yeah, maybe I'll go and do the ocean monitoring thing instead. It is 11:30. I don't think I can manage to write this one in time before midnight. Let's go and do the ocean monitoring thing. Oh, this one's fairly scary. So I think we have a thing that once per time unit samples the data into a RAM, and then when we get a packet over the radio, goes back 6 entries in the RAM and reads it out again. Which feels like it should be pretty simple. I mean, do we think we can achieve this in a single MC6000? And some RAM, obviously. Maybe I should move that a little further to the right. Oh, no, we can't achieve it in a single MC6000. It hasn't got enough X-bus ports. Because it needs to be able to read from the ID. It needs connections to the ID chip, 2 connections to the radio, I think. Can you do this, I wonder? No, you aren't allowed to connect the radio to itself. You are allowed to rotate the radio. Interesting. So you need 2 connections to the radio, a connection to the ID chip, and 2 connections to the RAM, I think, in order to make this work. Unless there's some sneaky way that we can get lost. I suppose if we're... Oh, maybe we can just read forwards in the RAM and never actually bother wiring up the address bus to the RAM. There's no way we're going to be able to fit everything in the program like this, is there? I mean, we can try. So the first thing that goes in is an 85, which is obviously from the sonar. So we move the sonar in first. So our very basic program just repeatedly V0 X 0 simply accumulates data continuously in a ring buffer in the RAM. But then it needs to if we've just received an interesting packet, then what's the second byte of the input then? Oh! When a data packet is received, respond with the 6 most recent sensor readings from that sensor. Oh. Oh, but this is terribly simple. No, it's not. Why are we moving that into ACK? We can just teak it against X1. Because what this means is we then not mob X2 X1, teak X2 X1. So at that point, well, let's just transmit some rubbish and prove that we can detect when we're being asked to send a reply. Okay, let's maybe conditionalize sending a reply. So we send the wrong data, but we do at least transmit at precisely the right moments. Good start. So now the question is, can we? What do we do about? Let's just for now switch this into dumb mode so that we've got the condition codes available to us in case we need them. Because then when we receive a signal that's for us, here we're meant to send something that begins with 85, so we need to advance the pointer by 2 and then send. So conveniently that means if we go like this, so now at the point when we read that our pointer is pointing at 15. We need it to advance by 2, except when we want it to advance by 3. Okay. This is getting quite messy. We then have to read everything. Wonder if we do this. Don't really want to do this with two separate RAMs because that means we need two. Data pointers. So can we do this more? That means we need two X-bus ports. So, I mean, that approach all seems sensible. Can we then do something silly? Like... No, because we can't even see the address port. Okay, well, let's just test this again. Because while I don't like it, it's what we've got. So sends the data and then advances the pointer by 2, doesn't advance the pointer again, and that's the point at which we need to start actually reading out. I kind of feel that for elegance sake it should look like that. So then instead we now want to go but actually all that's needs to happen is that we need to jump into this loop in the opposite phase, isn't it? Except that we also need to jump out of the loop in the correct phase. Maybe we don't. Maybe the tests are badly written. Sorry, I'm just pondering this quite hard. Then we just need, we really then need our one extra instruction here to essentially jump if not equal back to there. I'm just kind of wondering if I can reduce the number of MOV X0 nulls here. Somehow. But we do need some of them. Like in particular, can we make that one part of the loop? And remove that one. So this is very wrong in that it corrupts its old data every time it returns a packet. So if they ever ask us for overlapping data, we will return rubbish. But everything in the test cases looks like that doesn't happen. Okay, maybe actually transmit out the transmit port. Okay, we only transmitted 1 byte. So we're transmitting something that's correct, but not everything that's correct. Let's single step through the transmission procedure then. So we save the latest data. We decide we do need to transmit something. We work out which thing we're trying to transmit. We advance the read pointer to the right place. We transmit a byte. Minus, not plus. So far so good. Right, it has bugs, but I think it works well enough for the tests. Because I think someone's test case generator never tries to read twice in rapid succession. I'm doing quite well by taking advantage of the bad test cases here. Well, this is an occasion for some pride. Mr. Sun very specifically praised Longteng Engineering when he took delivery of these components. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back. I feel like we're going to play a big role in his future plans. He did say robust and reliable. Well, 1 out of 2 isn't bad, I think. Not sure which it is. So, Claire has asked, like half an hour behind, histogram of what? So we have this device here, which is magic colour changing clothes. You have a colour sensor and you have 2 outputs which you use to program the colours of the clothes. And we've got a piece of supplemental data somewhere that tells us what colours we're meant to output for different inputs. But the tricky thing is that we're required to bucket the input from the colour sensor according to the classification chart, and then find the value that we saw for the most time in the of during the time when the calibration button was held down in order to pick which colour we had. So we need to construct a histogram of the colours to see which one's the most popular colour, which is kind of tricky. Or at least, yes, it involves mucking around with a big pile of RAM. Let's just check, how many colours do we know about? So the smart die can output 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colours. So we don't need very much storage for that. And we only need to count over about 10 time units usually. But this is, yes, going to involve bucketing the input and then dropping it into the then incrementing some element of RAM to indicate which one we've just received. Happily, they bucket by second digit of the number, more or less. The only awkward thing is that red is first digit, by first digit of the 2-digit input, that red is 20s and 30s. So let's see what the new emails say. Hey, sexy. I'm Masha 9000, freshly created in Novosibirsk factory not such a long time ago, programmed with many moves and techniques to make you feel the best. My material and construction are top quality. I can come to you in unmarked container and free shipping to the world. Yes, thank you. Click to see my pictures. Alternatively, well, I mean, not really alternatively. It's midnight and I'm going to stop in a moment. Joe has inspired by an airline cocktail mixer for us. I was inspired by a flight I was on recently. Most of the drinking options were whatever the flight attendants could throw together, just a mixer and a small section of liquors. A drink mixing device could be made in an easily portable case and could dispense a wide variety of drinks for customers. I did my homework and called several airlines to gauge their interest. And reception to the idea was good, so I think we should go ahead and try to develop this product. I've also designed an initial selection of drink ingredients and mixes which I've sent along. In the meantime, while the engineering effort moves forward, I will create a marketing and rollout plan. Hang on, who are you and what have you done with our Joe? That he's being vaguely professional about this. We were a bit suspicious of him, but that's more or less normal Joe, so... So this one has a keypad in which you can enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7. And then vodka, gin, lemon, lime, cranberry and vermouth are simple outputs connected to mechanisms that dispense these ingredients at a rate of 0.5 ounces per time unit. Millilitres, damn it. When a value is available from the keypad, read it and assemble the corresponding cocktail recipe from the Elegant Bachelor, which can be found in the supplemental data section of the manual. And for extra fun, you dispense all the ingredients starting simultaneously. I think in all cases. Yes, okay, you have to change the numbers if you're switching into millilitres as well. So our various buttons has 7 possible results, and for each the various things have up to 3 ounces of ingredients. So that means we need to at most generate output for 6 time units. And I would observe there's no beer here anyway. So yes, that one will be a... I mean, blatantly it has 2 I/O expanders. And then blatantly it has to have some kind of a ROM to hold what the various mixes are. And then the only question is how on earth we turn on and off the outputs appropriately. Because the naive approach requires 12 entries in the ROM per drink. Well, it may need not, but yeah. I do have one horrible idea, but it doesn't work. But I'm now slightly wondering if we can. This might be the occasion to introduce our piece of mad programmable logic technology. Whether we can have that handle shutting things off at the right time or something. I'm not immediately clear whether we could achieve that. So it's got 3 inputs and 3 outputs, which is kind of intriguing. So, I mean, you could record each drink as just 2 3-digit numbers. But no, I should not be trying to design this now. It's midnight, and I'm planning to cycle to somewhere in the vicinity of Grantham tomorrow. So probably now is not the time to go, I wonder what we can do with this exciting CPLD. Which is kind of intriguing. It is quite expensive, to be fair. It costs the same as a big processor. Anyway, so we will leave that until next time, which might be on Friday or might not, depending on whether or not the upstream from farmhouse in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales is useful. Yes, Diziot, it's a fairly standard programmable logic device. The only thing I don't really understand is how the feedback bit works, because it's got a kind of so this area I don't quite know what it's. So that there's clearly that can either be an output or an input, and there's something you can do with that register there, presumably, to do something. But also, obviously, we want that to be an output. And then, yes, we have lots of fuses. Possibly, given that we only have an S and an R input to that, those merely set and reset that, which can then be used in place of that. Instead of as an input, it can be used for feedback with one bit of state, possibly. Slightly sad that we don't get a picture of this object. Sadly, none of it works. Simulate, nothing happens. Your device does not produce any drinks.
I searched for this object, tried to find pictures of this object for you. Unfortunately, it turns out that this is an object in Java.
It's true, yes.
So therefore, I got this.
So yes, we now actually have 2 Joe tasks at this end, and then the only slightly terrible cryptocurrency deposit terminal, and some various other odd things down there. Right. Anyway, that will be all for today, and I will be back sometime. Probably on a Friday, though I don't know which Friday. So, good night everyone, and we will see you when we see you.
Bye bye.